They set out before dawn, the mist still clinging to the pines like a lingering breath. Daniel hoisted his backpack higher on his shoulders, and his son, Ethan, tugged at his hand, eyes wide with excitement. It was their first real hike together, just the two of them, the forest, and a promise of adventure. At first the world was peaceful. Birdsong broke the hush, and shafts of pale sunlight danced through the canopy. Daniel pointed out deer tracks in the damp earth. Ethan marveled at the way the moss seemed to glow. They clambered over fallen logs, crossed shallow streams, and paused by a mossy clearing for lunch. Daniel watched his son's grin, felt a swell of pride. Out here, away from emails and the hum of the city, they were free. But as they pressed deeper into the woods, the air grew still. The birds fell silent. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Daniel noticed it first. A shape hunched against a tree 50 yards ahead, impossibly still, as though carved from the bark itself. He raised his hand to warn Ethan, but the boy was already staring. The shape seemed human at first, tall, gaunt, its back hunched in an awkward imitation of the surrounding trees. But something was wrong. Its limbs were too long, its shoulders too narrow, and when it turned its head, the movement was too quick, the angle impossible. Its eyes, black, rimmed in red, locked onto Ethan's, and a low, wet hiss slipped into the silence. Daniel's heart thundered. He grabbed Ethan and bolted, tripping over roots, branches slapping at their legs. Behind them, the creature's snarls echoed. They stumbled downhill, the path twisting unpredictably, as if the woods were rearranging themselves around the skinwalker. Daniel felt a cold sweat prick his spine. The thing was close, so close he could hear its ragged breathing. Then the forest erupted with sound. The skinwalker burst into full view, all spindly limbs and jutting bones. Its skin stretched tight like hide over its face. It moved with impossible speed, lunging forward on arms and legs that bent the wrong way. Daniel hooked his arm around Ethan and dived behind a fallen log. The creature's claws raked at the wood, splintering it, drawing a scream of terror from both father and son. Daniel's mind raced. There was no way out, no path clear in this labyrinth of ancient trees. He whispered to Ethan, "When I say go, we run." Ethan's eyes were pools of fear, but he nodded. Daniel counted, 3, 2, 1. Then pushed Ethan over the log and sprinted after him. They crashed through the undergrowth, hearts pounding, lungs burning. Branches whipped at Ethan's face. Daniel kept one hand on his son's shoulder, guiding him blindly. They burst into a clearing filled with bracken and ferns, the sun now high enough to cast sharp shadows. Daniel risked a glance back. The skinwalker stood at the edge of the trees, watching, as though amused. It cocked its head, then slid back into the darkness with a whispering rustle. Daniel swallowed hard, gathering Ethan into his arms. The forest seemed to sigh, the unsettled hush returning. Neither spoke as they retraced their steps, faster now, adrenaline propelling them until the trees thinned and the trail opened onto the parking lot where they'd started. Their car sat untouched, as if waiting patiently. Ethan climbed in without a word. Daniel fumbled with the keys, his hands trembling. When the engine roared to life, Ethan finally spoke, voice small. "Dad, what was that?" Daniel's throat tightened. He looked at his son's pale face, the way Ethan's eyes darted to every shadow. In that moment, he made a silent vow. They never mentioned the hike again. Not at breakfast, not at bedtime, not ever. Friends asked about their trip. Daniel said they'd had a great time, saw lots of deer and some really cool trees. Ethan nodded along, his smile forced, but every so often, when the wind rattled the windows at night or a branch scratched against the house, they'd sit up, hearts pounding, and share a look that spoke the unspeakable. Because some things are too terrible to put into words, and some secrets once seen can never be unseen.